Can't say much back then, huh?
Don't stick your corn down in your mouth the wrong way.
More turkey on. They think you're smoking top pipe, huh?
That's the hunt, isn't it?
It's a rock.
I haven't heard it.
Sam's gonna go
Everybody
right
look
now
pretty.
and they get you one this way.
Doing the best I can, Sam.
And then we got our 110 in probably about
14 left. Had a bottom shelf, and we put books in it. And this radio you look down on from the top. I had the speaker behind it. It was a nice radio.
Yeah, why don't you
I let her have it for a second. Otherwise, I'd like to have it. It's different. There's nobody had a radio like mine. And we had the first radio in our community. We weren't that wealthy, but I don't know what our dad.
more food?
I don't remember that. I remember all the neighbors used to come in when Amos and Andy come on. You know, that night.
What's the matter, Cleoma? You mean your food don't taste good anymore?
No, they don't want it down there.
There's no room up there.
We'd like to eat, we can't eat because of that. Very well.
See, I can't eat either.
Oh, I don't know where I'd go.
Uncle Larry, how's that corn?
Just set it down.
Pretty good turkey.
Oh, Mark, you son of a...
You know, let us know that was us. He does pretty good. Now, the oldest of us is in regular school, and he does real good. Gregory, they're teaching him sign language, and he can talk though, and I know he can hear
See, one turkey
more
didn't get out
than
of the chicken.
I thought. Because I can say something and he, in just a normal voice, and he'll, like, your shoes are in the bathroom, he'll just run right and get them. Or something.
This is what I'm best at too, Uncle Joe.
Probably.
What do you got, Cal? Who knows, huh?
That was good. Yeah, it's hot. Mark it like that, it's hot.
Yeah, I'll want some then.
Good morning.
No, it's
Drop
afternoon.
Dad.
It's
Get off of
afternoon.
here.
You wouldn't think a little thing like that would cause that much of a problem. Yeah, they're just a little flat plate hold in them and they just float along.
How you doing, Cat? Where's the other one?
Just go down there and start boring.
Huh? Oh, looking for it, I've never seen I know what.
Mark's gonna. Yeah, they'll have to bring a chair in. You need to sit down or stand, whatever you want to do. New car once and almost joined.
Here, when was it? Friday night you called me, and John asked whether I had ever finished this thing. Well, I told him no, we threw it all away already. And I actually thought that's what happened, but I asked her about it the next morning. She said, well, I think we still got some of it left, so yesterday on the way down, we kind of reworked it a little bit and made it sound, she made it sound better. So, so I'll just kind of read it here, and then I've got a comment or two here that I'll make on the sideline so you can shoot me for the comments and congratulate her for the
Speak up.
Excuse me, Lauren, talk louder for these old people back here who can't hear.
Bring your chair up a little further here.
Look here.
There's a chair right here, Rick.
They can't. Too much.
Says the Heisers pulled up their roots twice in a little over a century. From 1764 to 1767, they and thousands, and it says approximately 30,000 people of the Germans responded to the manifesto of Catherine the Great to settle and farm vast tracts of land along the lower Volga River. It guaranteed to them and their descendants forever free land, religious freedom, the right of self-government, exemption from military service, and other liberal concessions, including free transportation to Russia, freedom to practice any trade or profession, freedom from taxes for 10 to 30 years, and other things included. Many went to Russia instead of America at this time because it was closer and travel was over land instead of water. Frederick Heiser, H-E-U-S-E-R, was the first known ancestor to who came from Dornsdorf or something, which is about 20 miles south of Frankfurt in Germany, to Norka. Norka was established in 1767 and was destroyed during World War II. The trip from Germany to the Volga took about a year. Not all made the trip. Some died on the way. Some went overland, others went to the rivers and then went on them. When they got there, they found a treeless plain. They had to make homes of dugouts or tents until they could make something better. They also were promised trade of their choice, but when they were there, they were told to be farmers and make their own way. Life was not easy at first, and I'll make this comment. They went through a lot then. How could we live in tents or dugouts for 2 or 3 years? But you know, when some of the early settlers in this nation came here, they went through the same thing. They had nothing except to scratch for. Life was not easy at first. Drought, cold winters, floods, and so forth. The first good crop was recorded in 1775. While in Russia, the Heisers were members of the Reformed Church. Norka had a large church which was the center of the town. It had a seating capacity of 2,000 people. That's a pretty large building for those days. It was the first church in the area to purchase an organ in 1792. The 3 bells were used to tell time of day, church services, town meetings, deaths, fires, and storms. The church was the center of community life. Schools were usually associated with the church and offered religion, reading, and arithmetic. Writing was only taught to the boys because paper was scarce and the girls didn't know how to write in a way.
That's right. Has it changed?
Norka had 1,100 students. Most of the people had some education. Everyone worked in the fields from daylight to dark, including young and old. Some women were even in the fields when they gave birth to their children. What was the big crops? No, wheat was the big crops. Other crops were rye, potatoes, barley, oats, corn, fruits, vegetables, cattle, hogs, sheep, chickens, geese, kind of like nowadays. Most of the work was done by hand. The German people kept mostly to themselves. No marriage or mingling with the Russian people, which later caused them problems and many of the rights given to them by the Russian government. And I'll stop here for a second. In the northern part of the county where we live in, and on up through Ellis County, is known as the German Russian Catholic area. When they first came and settled in their areas, they used the same town names as what they had over there. And some of them are Lebenthal, Chanchin, Munger, Katherine, and that type. But when they came over here and settled here, they practiced the same things as what they done over there. They wouldn't even intermingle over here in between communities. Some of them even married their brothers and sisters. And I had a Catholic man tell me one time, he said, you know, he said, we was forced to get away from that because he said we had too many deformities and mental problems and things like that. So it not only caused problems over there, it caused problems here too, to start with. In 1871, Alexander II signed a decree taking away many of the favored rights. Russian people envied the favored position the Germans held. In 1874, it was decreed that the Germans would have to serve in the military. 6 years of active duty and 9 years in the reserves. They were given a grace period of 10 years to immigrate to other countries. About 300,000 immigrated to North and South America. There was 4 brothers, 2 sisters, and spouses and children, 31 in all of the Heisers that left Russia. They were the 4th generation of the Heisers in Russia. It was 120 years since the ancestors moved to and helped form Norca. And that was a real surprise to me. I always had the idea that they was only there 10, 15 years before they came over here. When you stop and think about it, they was in Russia longer than what we're in America today. They took their Holy Communion on May 3, 1887, signed by Pastor Wilhelm Storkoff or something in the Evangelical Congregational Church. Peter, 44, Catherine, 37, Heinrich, 32, Nicolaus, and John, his twin brother, 29, and Margarita, 20, immigrated to the U.S. in June of 1887. Elizabeth and Anna Marie came later, and then went to Canada. There are four different spellings of the Heisers, named in the same family. Heiser, Auser, Heuser, and Haeusher. Nicolaus used Heiser, Heiser, and his twin brother used Heuser. And the way I understand it, Nicolaus was born just before midnight. His brother was born just after midnight.
Stay older.
Nicholas Heiser was born March 26, 1858 in Norca. Died on his birthday in 1933 at Durham, Kansas. He married Katherine Weidenkeller, who was born 1863 in Norton and died in 1942 in Durham. There was 11 children, and they also raised a nephew and niece, Alec and Dora Weidenkeller. And there is some Heisers northwest of Hayes that spell their name the same way as we do at Cabo. But I've never met them. I guess somebody thought asked about it, and they've asked about us down here already, but we've never met that I know of.
There's also another Heiser family out there.
I've seen some people in Spokane that have Heiser names.
Now, I asked John last night, maybe some of the rest of you might know something about it. If I recall correctly, there's one of the Heiser, and it's the same spelling as ours, that went to Colorado or Wyoming, and I don't know whether it was them or some of their children or what, established a saddlery company in Denver. Right. And it's somehow a distant relationship, the way I understood it. I'm not sure I'm correct on that. But there is a Heiser saddle. And later on, he got out of it, and his partner stayed in, and it was called the Keystone saddle. And I guess it's not in existence anymore. It's the company's out of business. But it was considered a very good saddle in its time. And the Heiser saddle is becoming kind of a valued thing now.
The Heisers in Lincoln, Nebraska, and how are they related? They was the relationship.
They're ancestor, brother. They first came and settled at Sutton for overwinter or whatever time it was, and then they dispersed. And Grandpa came down this direction, and one of his brothers went to Lincoln, different places. But the ones that went to Canada, the way I understand it, they have heard very little, or nobody knows very little.
Well, when I was a kid, I remember some from Canada visited me. We were still in our old house, and we had an outdoor.
The church supported them or brought them over again. I mean, in Canada, they didn't have those. It was kind of an organized group.
John, it was still cold to go outside. This is Janet, her daughter. We have a son in North Dakota. Our oldest boy is in North Dakota, close to the Canadian line. Our youngest boy, I said, I hope was home doing chores. They're taking care of things.
And he's studying to be an occupational therapist.
Oh, it is.
Being what?
That's interesting.
And Janet is a nurse, is that right?
I gotta have somebody to pay my debts off.
Where is he in school?
Fort Hayes.
He was in Fort Hayes. He's thinking about going to Kansas Newman this fall, or no, this year.
Can we ask a question?
I don't know an answer.
I just wondered how you ever met her, if she's from way up there in Dakota. How in the world did you ever meet her?
Through school in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Good. I used to go get an education.
I've been able to learn ever since. No, I'll say this, Harry. This morning we was joking around, and you know how guys do, they joke. But she's been a very good wife.
I understand that.
You got that on tape now.
Boy, you're just about out of the window now.
I can get her off for a little bit, huh?
Neighbor Jane or Ray, want to go down that line and...
Yeah.
Come on, you're kids too.
California, stand up and tell me.
No, you do. We're not going to let any outlaws talk.
Okay. This is supposed to be my husband, he won't talk.
It's her family.
Yeah, it's family. We have 4 children. We have Randy's the oldest, he's living in Lindsburg, his family, yeah. Rick's a sheriff deputy, he's in Reno County, among the Amish. He's remarried and has 3 children. He bought a house and adopted 3 kids all in 1 week.
Oh, boy.
And our daughter, Renelle, she lives in McPherson, her and her husband, and they have 2 little boys that I babysit and raise. And Robert's down there, he's still looking. Single and looking. We have 13 grandchildren with step adopted and blood. What else is there to say? Rick is a sheriff deputy. He's also in Army Reserves. He's got almost 12 years of Army in. He was over in Saudi Arabia for 120 days. When they came home, they had airplane trouble, they had fuel line trouble, they had flight to Germany and change planes and reload. He was like, we was at Fort Riley about 5 o'clock on a Sunday evening. They didn't get in until 3 o'clock Monday morning, so it was a long way. The Army did feed us. It was not as good as this, but they did have food. The little kids were running like, they were just no sleep in them. They was all anxious for them to get in. That's about all I can tell you right now. Everybody's working. Randy has lost his job due to the June 15th tornado, but he got a job last week finally. He's going to work for Certainty now. Outside of that, I guess he had a heart attack. That's an outstanding. That was in April 10th. May 5th, wasn't it? He had the second one. So we spent some time vacationing in St. Francis Hospital.
Did you have surgery then or not?
Had balloon surgery. I'm supposed to go back in August and have the other side taken care of.
So that's about the size of our family.
So then you're running on 1 cylinder now.
Feel like it too.
Next.
Well, Ellis Miller, live in Lodi, California. This is my wife, Margaret. I have 2 children from Margaret's prior marriage. Daughter Robin lives in Lodi, works in Stockton for the San Joaquin County. She has a daughter named Megan. The son lives in Stockton. He works for the Stockton Children's Home, and he has 2 daughters. So that's about the extent of it.
Yeah.
What do I do? Oh, I look for loopholes. Been there since July 1st of 57. I have about 11 people all together in the office.
Ellis,
Yes.
does your wife have a job besides that?
Oh, yeah, that's right. She works for a dentist.
Dr. Gums.
Dr. Gums.
Dr. Gums.
Dr. Gums.
Yeah, he's a young man. What's he? What 20?
He's 30 years old.
30 years old now. She went to work for him at when he was 26. So that's our second son.
Yeah.
She took him over.
I've
Been training him for the last 4 years.
He's a nice boy. He's from South Dakota. That's about it.
Yes, we know where we're at now.
Well, Sam is my husband, and we were married in October. It'll be 2 years this October. And, and I had our 2 boys. One works for Daco in Springfield, Missouri, and he has 2 boys, and he's married the second time, and he has, 2 stepdaughters and 1 step grandchild. And then Gene works for Ford Motor Company, and he has 1 child, Stephanie, which is a senior in high school this coming year.
Live where?
In Springfield, Missouri.
No,
Gene.
No, Gene. Oh, gee, I'm mixed up. I was going back to John. John has 1 boy that's a senior in college in Springfield, and the other one is going to be a junior this year in Springfield. And I'm going back now to Gene. He works for Ford Motor Company, has a daughter Stephanie, and they live in Northville, Michigan. And let's see, that's about it. There's some step grandchildren and all this, but I won't go into detail. I'm a great grandma.
Oh my. I don't
Make it.
belong to the Heiser, so I'll stick my.
You do now?
Yeah.
When you said I do, that did it.
Sam's one granddaughter, I'm sure, is taking care of quite a few people in the cardiac arrest area in St. Francis Hospital. So if you've been in that institution, she probably was there.
What's your name?
Denise Spivey.
Denise Spivey, Spivey, Denise, St. Francis in Wichita.
The hospital is
Called in.
True, Coach Charles.
I don't have much to say. Doesn't take too long to tell my life history. I'm married to Ruth. She's sitting over there on the divan. We have 2 sons. Mark, who's shooting everybody here right now, and our youngest son, Don, is handicapped, and he's in El Dorado in a rehabilitation center there, and doing quite well at the present. We live on the home place, and I spent a few days in St. Francis myself past year. I had the privilege of being taken care of by Denise, who, her mother married my first cousin, so I have known her for some time. I knew her when she was just a little girl, but she was a very good nurse, and I ended up having surgery and stuff. Nearly. Oh yes, that's right. Okay, yeah. Mark is married right to Kathy, and we have 2 granddaughters, Stephanie and Krista, the joy of our life. Yeah, that's one of them. That'll do it.
Oh, I don't have a great lot to say. I have 2 sons, and my oldest son lives at Shawnee, Kansas, and he's married to Georgetta, and she had 3 children by her previous marriage. And Ron adopted Mindy, the 14-year-old, who is now 14-year-old. And my other son, Harlan, the youngest one, he's a dentist, lives in Gladstone, Missouri. He has a wife named Marcella also, and we call her Marcy. And they have 2 little girls. Laura is 9, and Kate is 5. And they're the joy of my life, too. And I live in Sedalia, Missouri. And I work part of the year. Part of the year I loaf, part of the year I run around. That's about it. My life is real simple. I'm through.
I got nothing to say. I'm just a badger from Iowa.
Yeah, but you got a name though.
Oh.
We got to know your name.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's better if you don't. I'm Virgil Hine anyway.
He's my brother.
So, yeah, we have 4 boys and a daughter. And a wife, Jean, which is Lucille's sister. And let's see, one of the boys is in L.A., California. He works for the Pacific, I believe it's Pacific State Insurance Company. He's a controller there for them. And another one lives in Visalia, California. He's the controller of a wind machine factory out there. And another one lives in Iowa City, Iowa. He's a computer programmer for the state, and also about to finish his EE degree in the Iowa University there. And her daughter is in Lincoln, Nebraska, and she works for Alexander & Alexander insurance brokerage firm, and she, well, let's see, what is her job? She figures out the rates for insurance with computer for the company. So I guess that's about it.
Oh, tell them about your daughter-in-law in L.A. She's a designer.
Yeah, she works for a clothing manufacturer out there, and she's, well, she designs some, but she's what they call a pattern maker. They take the design, the sketch that the designer makes, and makes the pattern out of that. And then she's also done some work on the side for some of the television personalities. And for, what's her name? I'm trying to think of her name. It's slipped my mind.
It's in LA Law, that's
yeah,
what I know.
works for in LA Law. She's the plays a part of a secretary there, and she's made her 2 wedding dresses and I don't know how many dresses for the Emmy Awards. And so,
That's your daughter?
her daughter-in-law.
Celebrity.
Yeah.
You got 2 grand?
Like in Nebraska, you know,
And
a lot of the.
she has a whole bunch of pictures where when she was fixing some of her dresses there at her home, she had a bunch of wigs and they were putting on wigs, and her husband was taking the pictures of the two in a different garb. They were just having a big ball. She's a real nice person, I guess, that she works for. And they have a lot of fun together. And then my wife got to meet her out there when we was out there this last winter. Well, she's the red-haired one that plays part of the secretary, and I can't think of her name now.
With the kind of shortish hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you mean.
But anyway, my wife met her, happened to go, they went to, well, just off of Beverly.
Place there for lunch.
Well, they had gone to lunch, but they were going to look for some patterns or material or something. I don't know what they were looking for, but anyway, they run into her right on the street. So she got to meet her out there, which was kind of unusual. I mean, how, you know, it just doesn't happen, you know. You bump into somebody like that in a big town, but it did, so that's the way it is. And that's about it, I guess. And I'm still working, trying to keep food on the table. I'm working quite a bit too, because I feel so sorry for these congressmen and senators up there. I don't want them to starve to death, so I'm keeping working.
All hard, aren't you? Pay taxes.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to keep up with that.
Hi, I'm Larry Bartell, and my mother was Dora Weidenkeller. That's where the Weidenkellers came in. And Heiser, because Mrs. Nick Heiser was a Weidenkeller also. And they was well, my grandma and Mrs. Heiser were sisters. And my mother said that she was 3 years old when her mother passed away, and her father, or my grandpa, worked on the railroad, putting the railroad in north and west of Denver. He worked out in the mountains, and he didn't come home until the weekends. And when he came home in the weekend, he came home and found his wife dead in bed, had 2 twin babies. And so when her dad came home and he seen that, the next day he died with a heart attack. And so my mother, she was 3 years old, and Uncle Alec was 4 years old. And she said she remembers that she got up on a chair to look into the casket, and mother laid with a baby in her arms. So that's the history of my mother. And then Mrs. Nick Heiser found out that they had died, and they put my mother and Alec in a kind of a temporary child place where they kept him. And Nick Heiser took Mrs. Heiser to Harrington from Durham in a buggy to catch the train to go to Denver. So she brought Alec and my mom back home. It was, what was it, 11? 11 kids, or 9 kids at that time. And, so then she stayed there and raised up Alex Weidenkeller and Alex Heiser were buddies, and they said those two caused them more trouble than anybody. Said that was the life of it. And then I asked my mom one time, I said, now where did they bury your parents? She says, well, it went that way. She pointed towards the south, in the northeast, out of Denver. So we went out to visit her uncle out there in Denver. I says, now is there a cemetery this way out of Denver? And he says, yeah. He said, you talk German. He says, but he says, that cemetery, he says, they moved that out, and now he says there is a shopping center there, but they moved the cemetery. He says, was there a tombstone there? And I said, I doubt it. And so we went on out there, and he says, well, we can drive out and look. But I don't know, we couldn't find them. So I don't know if they ever sold their body and or bones and moved it out. We don't know. She may be laying under that shopping center. Who knows? And so that's the size of that's where we got related with the Weidenkellers, with the Heisers. And so that's the history of that. And we have here's my wife, and we have 2 sons. One named Larry, and one is named Glenn. And Larry, he works at the hospital, or Lanker Hospital in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And you probably had heard that him and his first wife divorced, and in May, the 4th of May this year, he remarried with a lady that worked also in the same hospital. But then when he had to have an emergency surgery, and so then we wasn't down there, and that's just shortly after they went through their divorce. So this lady, she found out that he had no family down there at the time, and so she just kind of looked over and got things for him that he needed in the hospital. That's where he got acquainted with her, and she helped him out quite a little. And, after the divorce was over a year, and they got married, this lady that helped them out. And she's never been married before. Larry's 48, and she's 43 and never been married before. She's a real nice lady. And Glenn, he works in hospital as a photographer and audio and visual mix. And, works with closed circuit cameras when he takes pictures of surgeries and that, and he puts it on tape as for the nurses for a learning process. When they, I'll just use one for an instance. They brought a patient in there was burned real bad, and they took a picture of him at the burn as he came in, and once every week he took those pictures again after they had grafted and that, and then he set that together for nurses to see when they could had a graft, to show the nurses what a graft would look like when it was alive and when it wasn't taken. And so that's his job, and he has a nice wife, and they got a cute little boy. He's my buddy.
He's 2 years old, and they're going to have another one in October. And they hope for a girl. And Larry has 2 children. One is 16 and one is 19.
So that's and Lynn's wife is a psychotherapist. She has her own office and works in Kansas City. She's got her own office with 2 other psychotherapists. They run an office together. What else? I guess that's our life.
I can't believe it.
I'm Leona, and this is my husband, Larry Fessler. We have two sons. The oldest is named Richard. He lives in Houston, Texas with his wife Pam. He's a consulting hydrogeologist there. They have two children. Brand is 8 and Danielle is 5. And our younger son's name is Wayne, and he's married to Debbie. Second marriage for him too. He and she both work for the telephone company, Southwestern Bell Telephone. Debbie had two children, Chris and Kelly. And Wayne had a boy, Patrick, when they married. And now they have two girls, Perry Jo and Callie. So it's yours, mine, and ours. And they're a busy, busy household, and a very happy one too. That's about it.
Well, I'm Walter Heiser. I got married to Esther, best thing that happened in my life. And to prove that, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary here last Sunday. And we have one son. He lives in Fort Myers, Florida. He's a doctor, been in practice now since February of this, 2 years, this last February, private practice. And he's an internal medicine and gastroenterologist. And his wife's name is Patricia Rose, and she helps him in the office and does all the office work. And the two work together and they're real busy. And we're real proud of him, and that's the joy of our life. To support this whole program, I used to be a candy man, the sweetest man in town.
Is that right, Esther?
So we sold many candy bars, and what really disturbs me is that I caused all these cavities and I have yet to get any kind of reimbursement from them. But we look forward to these meetings all the time, and thankful that we can be here.
For you, neighbor.
Is it our turn now? Well, this is my husband, Vic, and we've been married now a little over 47 years. We have 3 children. Sue and Stan live in Denver, Colorado. And he is a teacher there at Denver Christian University, and Sue is a counselor. And Ann and John, our second daughter, and her husband live in Lincoln, Nebraska. And she has her degree in interior design, and she and another friend have their studio together. And they do a lot of big projects in hospitals and homes and offices. And she also works with her husband, John, who's an architect, and they do a lot of decorating and redoing together. And they have 2 little children. Lori is 8 and Paige is 5. And then Mark, our son, is a dentist in Marion, Kansas. And he has a daughter, Allison, who is 13. And that's about it. We've been retired now for about 10 years. And that's about it.
Yeah, it's you, Cloma.
I'm Cleoma Johnson, and I live in Spokane, Washington. We have a son, Dan, who's married to Kitty, and she had 2 children. They were small when they were married. Kim is now 27 years old, and she has a little fellow, Ben. She works in the courthouse, so that gives me my first great-grand. And she had a son, and he now is 23, and he's in the Navy, and he was over in Desert Storm and was glad to get out of that sand hole, as he called it. And he is married. His wife is in Spokane, and he is still stationed down near L.A. Dan's wife works for Murphy and Favor, which is a stock. They sell stocks and bonds. And they, she does the answering the phone there for over 100 people. So she's busy all the time. Our youngest son is a dentist. He's married to Wanda. They live in Salem, Oregon. They have 3 children. Jeremy, that will be 14 in October, and Jeffrey was 10 in May, and little Janelle will be 8 in September. Rodney and all 3 of his children were born on the 18th of the month. They each have their own month. My husband was an accountant, and we lived out in Wilbur in the farming community, which is about 25 miles from Grand Coulee Dam. If you ever come to Washington, there's a lot to see. It's a hilly country. They raise wheat, and we have a lot of fruit trees in certain sections. And we're near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and what else? Oh, Dan, our oldest son, works, he has rentals, and in the meantime, he's busy. If there's any repair work in any of them, he's able to do all that himself. He also does repair work for many of the managers of other rentals, and so he's busier always telling than a cat on a tin roof. They have a lake home about 13 miles away, and they spend their weekends there. Last year, Ellis and Margaret came up to visit, and we had a wonderful weekend all out there together. Ellis is my brother. John is retired, and he is busy recycling. That's all.
You want to talk there?
He's the one that said a while ago.
Do we have a choice?
I guess being I don't have any choice, the only thing I know that I'm Harry Heiser, and I'm the second oldest in our family. Got an older sister, Katherine, and then from there on down, the rest of them are below us. And, Irma and I got married May 10th, 1946, and we finally had a family of 2 children. Mary Lou was her oldest daughter, and Irma was within a couple months of being 40 years old. To think, due to my bashfulness, I didn't even know that she even had deluxe kneecaps until I was married about 12 years. But anyway, we finally had a family, and 14 months later, Larry came along, so that will carry on the Heiser name, I guess. And getting back to Mary Lou, she's got a son and 2 daughters, and married Jarvis Seaman, and he is an accountant, and they live at Wichita. And Larry has been working for the Hillsborough Industries, as well as Mary Lou started there when she started working there the morning of the night she graduated from high school. And she has got a record of a 10-minute writing and typing, the fastest writing of anybody in center school, and nobody's beat her since. And that's what, on that job, that's how she got her job. And Larry went to work there too, and like I said, so both of our kids have worked for Hillsborough Industries through the years, and they have been good to my kids, as well as I think my kids have tried their best to work a good job there to do so also. And what?
Larry lives east of us.
Yeah, Larry just lives approximately a mile east of town. And Irma and I retired as of 2 years ago this October, and moved into Hillsborough, the Crowd Center. And so we're close to Larry, at least, in case we need any help or whatever. And at the same time, I've been Irma's chore boy all these years. So this is how that happens. I think I married the smartest girl in the country, because she picked on me.
Obviously.
No, obviously is right. And so I am happy to be here, and I think we're all blessed as a family of 6. And all 6 of us kids in our immediate family are still here. And I want you all to know we're so happy that you all came to this reunion, and I hope this continues or repeats itself in the near future. And I wishing each and every one of you the best of everything, and if you ever get to big town of Hillsburg, come see how the poor people live. That's us. 603 South Lincoln. I don't know what else I should say. Anything else I should say? All right. Already too much, man.
We got 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls. Keith and Bob both live in Lincoln, Nebraska. Bob's never been married. Keith is married, has 2 little kids. They found out the 3rd one's on the way. hoping the Heiser gets carried on. Marilyn lives in Hillsborough. Her husband works for Co-op Creamery. They have 2 little boys that are hard of hearing. And a little girl that hears too much. Jim's in Liberal, Kansas, and he works for SRS. We have 7 grandkids. 8th one on the way. We're glad you could all come.
Did you mention Kathy?
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, I got a Kathy. That's why she's special to me.
Kathy lives in Enterprise, and she has 2 daughters. The oldest one will be a senior, and the other one will be a freshman in high school. And I'm glad she can go.
We want to thank you for having us too. Yeah.
Let's give them a big hand.
There was 2 children that passed away. There was 11 children all told, but 9 that grew up, and there was 2 of them passed away, and he was wondering where they was buried at. Well, in the book here it says Elizabeth was born in 1888 and died in 1899 at Sutton, Nebraska. And then there was a John, born April 21, 1889, and died in 1890. And it's at Sutton, Nebraska.
He was a twin to my mother.
Twin to your mother. And then there was Daniel, and then your dad, John. So they actually had 2 Johns.
Our dad was the 2nd John.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, Lauren, it would be nice to have on that, like, those of you, I see, we would say, when Mom Heiser passed away and Dad Heiser passed away, it'd be nice to have that on the tape here for those of you, like, well, Walton and Marge, their folks give it, you know, just to have it on tape. Can any of you do that, like your family? See, Uncle Abe, when they passed away, Uncle Abe is the only one remaining. Does anybody have any later information on Uncle Abe?
Walter's seen him last that I know of.
Yeah. We saw Uncle Abe at the end of June, and he's doing real well as far as Esther and I are concerned. He knew us and talked very sensible and asked us questions and was concerned. And his daughter Dolores is taking care of him, and she's doing an excellent job. And we went out for a little drive, and also went out for dinner that evening, and he ate a good dinner, and it was time for his bed, and he says, this is an exceptional evening, I want to stay up. And so Dolores let him stay up and to visit a little longer. So as far as I'm concerned, and my wife, he's doing real well considering. And, Uncle Abe now is 88 years old, and doing real well. He's got a beautiful home up there in College Place, Washington. And I'm looking forward to seeing Dolores. She's coming to Modesto August 17th to see her ex-husband's parents. She fell in love with them, and so she's going to see him, and I think we're going down to visit her again at that time. And they send all of you people here, Uncle Abe especially said, when you go up to the family reunion, remember me there and tell everybody hello. And, I don't know whether I'm supposed to say this or not, but you said something about saying when the former members of the family passed away. I'd have to look for sure because time passes on, but my father passed away in, I don't know the month, but in 1964. And we've missed him, but that's life. I lost my mother in 84. She was born, I mean, no, 74, I beg your pardon. I lost her just 10 years later. Dad was only 74 years old and my mother was 82.
Somebody else gonna have to give Mom and Dad things. I know the trust, but I
I know. Mom died in June of '63, and Dad died
on June the 20th.
Of 70, because it was 7 years later.
And it was June 20th, I know for sure. There's a picture up there of Marilyn and her boyfriend. That's in the family letter, and the family letter came to my house shortly before our reunion, and I figured it's silly to send the thing on, and so it's that one right over there, down further. And those
Behind the eggs. Behind the, oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, it was July.
It was in July, and Mom and Dad in June.
It was 63, that I remember.
I want to put that picture back in the family letter.
It was July instead of June, but it was 63.
Did she ever say when she's getting married? She's gonna be late. Passed away on September 11, 1970.
And Mom died in October 20th, I think.
Except her mother's got all her teeth.
Your dad was when again, Lauren?
Heiser, Hines. She married my dad, Henry Hines. They were married April 10, 1919. And Mom passed away June 16, 1978, at almost 81 years of age. And my dad passed away the 31st of March in 1972, and he was 76 years of age. And they are both buried in Memorial Park Cemetery in Sedalia, Missouri.